welcome to Alley Cat's food blog. This is our first of hopefully many, so just bear with us. Today I am really excited because we're going to be cooking lemon garlic shrimp and grits. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to boil the chicken broth for the grits. That is one of the best ways to add more flavor to grits, is to put chicken broth in them instead of water. So that's the first secret ingredient to the grits. So what we want to do is we want to pour about 6 cups of broth into a pot. And it can be a medium saucepan too, but I like using my pot. So I've already poured 4 cups in here. Also, if you have a Dollar Tree, make sure you check out their food section because sometimes they have reduced sodium chicken broth. I'm a big fan of making really great meals on a really low budget. So definitely check that out because you can get a whole 4 cups for $1. Anyways, I've already poured 4 cups in there, so we're gonna do 2 more cups of the broth, and then all you gotta do is heat the broth up, okay? Just need my 2 more cups, and then you're going to set this on medium-high heat till it boils. Once it boils, you can add the grits, and we'll come back to that in just a second. Also, don't forget to put a lid on it so that it boils quicker. This is a pretty quick meal, so that's one of the reasons why I really like it. The last shrimp and grits recipe I did took forever, so I'm really excited about this one. So while that's boiling, we're going to start to prep the ingredients for the shrimp sauce. So come on over here to the cutting board, and what we want to do is we want some tomatoes and we want an onion. So we're gonna need about 2 cups of tomatoes. So I just like to dice them. There's no wrong way to dice the tomatoes. I like dicing them small, but you can dice them however you want to. Tomatoes just add a really nice flavor to the sauce, and it's really nice too because when you cook the tomatoes, they give the broth, they give the shrimp a little extra liquid. So it definitely works out really nicely for the dish. I am a huge fan of bargains, so I got this lovely knife, which I am still learning to use from Target, and a knife set, a 15-piece knife set for about $10. And at the end of this vlog, I will let you know what the brand was. It is absolutely fantastic, and I know that there are people who have paid definitely 3 times as much just to get a nice knife set, so I'm really happy with my knife set. So, like I said, I'm just gonna cut these tomatoes, dice them really good, and then we're gonna set these aside so they're nice and ready for the shrimp. Also, for the shrimp, you can use any kind of shrimp you want. I prefer jumbo, and usually I use already cooked shrimp, but if you don't have cooked shrimp, that's okay. You can use raw. Today we're using raw. It's my first time ever using raw shrimp for a recipe, so I'm hoping that there won't be any problems. Now what we're going to do is we're going to slowly whisk in 1 1/4 cup grits. Now this recipe should probably serve between 6 and 9 people, so it's going to make quite a bit. So just going to measure grits out. And then make sure you have a long spoon if you are doing it in a pot, and just slowly stir that in there. Just slowly stir that in there. And it's so funny because you'll actually feel the grits just thickening as you pour them into the broth. So again, that's 1 1/4 cups grits. I really don't think it matters if you have instant or you have the old-fashioned. Last time I made this recipe, I had old-fashioned, and they cooked in 5 minutes, which is really peculiar considering that they were the old-fashioned ones and they take 15 to 20 minutes to cook. But I don't think it really matters. So long as you boil the broth first and then you just cook them until they're done, then you're good to go. So now we're going to leave the lid off and we're going to cook this uncovered until it's done. And you can tell once it's been thickened. Now these are quick 5-minute ones, so they should be done in 5 minutes, but still sometimes depending on your stove and how hot the pot is, they might finish cooking before that. So we're just going to turn it down to a medium-low heat so that way they can simmer. We don't want them boiling right now, we just want them simmering. So our stove has numbers on it, so I'm going to turn it to about a 3, and then I'm going to come back, and if that seems like it's too much, I'm going to turn it down even lower to a 2. Alright, so that's our grits. Oh, and I did forget, we've got to add some salt and we've got to add some pepper. So you can eyeball it. It's totally up to you how much pepper you want, how much salt. But what we're going to do for this recipe is we're going to do a ½ teaspoon salt, and we're going to do ½ teaspoon pepper. It's my teaspoon. Sometimes I like to use less salt just because if you think about it too, chicken broth already has some salt in it, so you don't need too much. But as far as pepper is concerned, it definitely gives the grits a nice taste to it. So I would say use the amount of pepper that I mentioned, the ½ teaspoon. So go ahead and just give that a nice mix, and then you're good to go. So now I'm going to go ahead and finish chopping my onion so we can get that shrimp sauce going. So now I'm cutting my onion, and you only need about a ½ cup onion, and just like anything in a recipe, you can tweak it. You can put in as much as you want. You can put in as little as you want. I'm a huge fan of onion and garlic. I think both of them just add so much to recipes. So I'm going to cut this onion in half, and I'm going to dice that, and then this is what I'm going to put in the grits. So we're going to check these grits, see how they're doing. They're looking good, and as you can see, they're already thickening. It doesn't take long for them to thicken at all. So now we're going to start our shrimp sauce. So we've got our shrimp, and I would say this is probably about 2-pound shrimp. I definitely like to double my recipe so I have plenty. Now, like I said before, this is a raw shrimp, so you can use cooked if you like, but I use raw for today because it was on sale. So yes, and also just to make sure before you cook your shrimp, make sure that that nasty black line or vein line, I'm not really sure exactly what that is, but whatever it is, I suggest you just clean it off because I'm definitely not a fan of having icky stuff in my cooking. So this is all cleaned, deveined, deshelled, and rinsed. So this is what we're going to use. We're not going to use it now because we want to start the base of our sauce, which is going to be our onions and our tomatoes and our garlic. So come on over with me to the skillet and we'll get started. So we're going to melt 2 tablespoons of butter in the pan. Okay, melt our 2 tablespoons in the pan. You can probably put the heat on about, I would say medium. You don't need medium high because then that might make the butter cook too quickly. We just kind of want it to nicely melt. And then once the butter is heated, we're going to start sauteing our onions in the butter and also our tomatoes. The tomatoes are already soft, so once you see that the onions are getting a little soft, then you can add the tomatoes because we don't want the tomatoes to be mushy and gross. We still want them to have a teensy bit of firmness. So right now we're just going to wait for the butter to melt. And sometimes if it's taking too long for my butter to melt, I just cut it in little pieces and then it melts quickly. So now that our butter is nice and bubbly, we're going to add these onions. And like I said, once the onions turn a little bit soft, which will be just a few stirs, a few minutes, then you can add those tomatoes. And what we want to do is whenever we're sauteing our onion for a recipe, you want to add your garlic too. I'm a huge fan of garlic. I love tons of garlic in my recipes, but you don't have to use a lot of garlic, whatever you like. If you're using the already minced garlic in a jar, ½ teaspoon equals 1 full clove. This recipe calls for 2 cloves, but I'm probably going to put 2 whole teaspoons, so then I will have 4 cloves of garlic in my recipe. Again, I just think the garlic adds so much flavor to your recipe, but it's your recipe. You can tweak it as you see fit. So we're just going to saute that in there, along with the garlic. And it's just so wonderful because anytime we're sauteing onions and garlic, whether it's in oil or whether it's in butter, it just smells absolutely amazing. So go ahead, give that a few stirs. Let that cook just a little bit, and I'm going to go back to our grits. They're nice and creamy and smooth. I mean, just look at that. Looks so good, and they smell fantastic. You can smell the broth, you can smell the pepper, and I know that they're just gonna be absolutely amazing. So, our grits are done. We're gonna turn that off, and while this is sauteing a little bit more, we're gonna add our cheese to the grits. Now, you can choose whatever kind of cheese you want. The original recipe calls for Parmesan cheese, and when I first made it, I actually didn't have any Parmesan cheese, so I used Romano cheese, which has a similar taste to Parmesan, but I think that it's probably a little bit stronger. Parmesan, I think, has a lighter taste. So, I have Parmesan cheese today, and you need about a half a cup, but like anything, you can tweak it. So if you want more, you can put more, and if you don't want as much, then you don't have to have as much. So we're gonna get a Parmesan cheese, and put it in there. We're gonna turn this down, actually add our tomatoes. Throw those tomatoes in there. Okay. It looks like a lot. I probably use a little extra tomatoes. You can also add your shrimp. When you're cooking your shrimp, you want to make sure that you cook it until it's nice and pink. It'll probably take about 3 to 5 minutes. Shrimp cooks pretty quickly, so it doesn't need to stay on for a long amount of time, but you do want to make sure it's cooked through. And also, you just want to make sure that it's cooked. You just want to cook it until it's just cooked, because one thing about shrimp is that if you overcook it, it gets very rubbery and it doesn't have a nice, juicy, chewy texture to it. So you want to make sure that you cook it thoroughly, but that you don't overcook it. So just make sure that you're watching it, paying attention to it, and you're good to go. So this is part of our sauce. The original recipe did not call for crushed red pepper, but I love crushed red pepper in a lot of my recipes. So does Kathleen. So we're gonna put some crushed red pepper in here. And again, if you want it, you can add it. If you don't want it, you don't have to add it. And it's up to you how much you choose to put in here. All right, so we're gonna add some crushed pepper, and we're also gonna add some paprika. I need cayenne, but we're actually out of cayenne, so I took a whiff of the paprika. It smells just like cayenne, so that's what I'm gonna use. So all you need is just a little pinch of it. So I'm just gonna kind of sprinkle it all around, and that's my pinch. So far it's looking good. I can't wait till the shrimp start to turn pink, because then it doesn't look like this nasty gray, yucky stuff. So while this cooks, I'm just gonna keep stirring it. And again, for some reason, when shrimp is cooked, it kind of releases some liquid, and we already got the tomatoes in there. So if it gets a little liquidy, that's okay, no worries. Just keep on cooking your shrimp until it's nice and pink. So I'm gonna keep letting that cook. Okay, now while we let this cook, we're gonna go back to our grits. And we're gonna add some Parmesan cheese. I got some shredded Parmesan cheese. You can buy the kind that's already shredded. You can buy a block of Parmesan cheese from the deli, and you can grate it yourself on a grater, whatever you wanna do. Whatever is most convenient for you, you can do. So, I'm gonna I actually already used my half measure cup, so I'm just gonna use my 1/4, use it twice. We all know fractions, so I'm just gonna go ahead and put a half a cup in here. Scoop that right in there. And again, you can be generous. I like to overflow it sometimes with cheese, just because I like cheese so much. And who doesn't like cheese grits? I mean, they're sinfully good. All right, so that's my half cup. I'm done with my cheese. I'm gonna use that for something else. I'm gonna give my grits a nice stir. And it's so amazing because they're already so hot, so the cheese just melts in there. It's amazing. And they're nice and creamy. That's exactly the texture that you want for your grits. You don't want them to be thick and clumpy. It's so funny because cooking is all about texture and the way things feel on your tongue. So again, you just want them nice and creamy. I'm done with that. I'm gonna cover it with a lid. Let that stay warm while we wait for the shrimp. Oh, take a look at that. See our shrimp? They're shrinking a little bit, and you can also see that they're turning a little white and pink. Definitely not done. We still see some gray in some of them, so we still gotta keep cooking it, but it looks delicious. So while I let this cook a little longer, I'm gonna start cleaning up. So look at those amazing, amazing grits. Nice and smooth and super, 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 super duper creamy. You can almost see the cheese stretching off of there. I forgot to add a tablespoon of butter to our grits. Our grits are officially complete. Again, I'm just gonna stir all that in there. While that cooks, I'm just gonna make some corn muffins because this seems to be a kind of Cajun kind of recipe, so we want something that seems to go well with it. So cornbread muffins are always good whenever you're having anything Louisiana style or kind of Cajun style. So even though lemon garlic kind of sounds a little bit gourmet, but I know I love corn muffins, so I like to make it anytime I have grits or anything similar. And then also, the last time I made these grits, I made them with fried tomatoes. So that's another addition you can have, and we'll probably have a salad with this as well, you know, get in the vegetables. So once this is finished, I will just pop it in. You can actually pour this into a cupcake tin, or you can pour it into an 8x8 square dish, and you can have square cornbread, or you can have cornbread muffins. I always like muffins because they're fun. So I'm gonna pour these into a buttered muffin tin and cook them for about 15 to 20 minutes. And I don't make this from scratch, I just buy a mix. This is Texas style cornbread mix, so that's what I got. It was really, really cheap. Like I said, it's really, really great if you can make a meal on a budget. This is only 59 cents, so hey, there you go. Okay, this is almost done. We're gonna leave it for about a minute or two while I butter that tin. And then after that, we're gonna add our lemon juice. So just, we're gonna let that sit tight. So have you ever been cooking and you realize that you don't have all the ingredients you need? Earlier that happened with the cayenne. I didn't have cayenne, so I substituted paprika for it. And another ingredient that I actually don't have, which the recipe calls for, is parsley. But I have found that sometimes you can use cilantro in exchange. The only thing is that cilantro has a somewhat stronger taste, and if you use too much, it can be a little overpowering. So I'm just gonna use a teensy bit. I'm just gonna chop it up real fine. And then I'm gonna sprinkle it into our shrimp sauce, because the shrimp sauce is all done. So now we're gonna add our parsley, and then we're gonna add our lemon juice as well. Gonna chop this up real fine. Some chefs like to use the stems when they chop up their cilantro. I'm still undecided on that. I'm trying to figure out what I like, but I'm just used to cutting off the leaves, so that's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna pull off the leaves and then chop this up real fine. And then add that. Also, we're gonna need about a 1/4 cup of lemon juice, and I'm going to use some lemons for that. I actually don't know why I have so many lemons, because you can probably get that from about maybe 2. But anyways, we'll see. So one trick too to make sure you get all the juice that you need from a lemon is to, 1, store it at room temperature, and number 2, to roll it back and forth, because when you roll it back and forth, you're gonna be breaking up all the inside parts of the lemon, and then that's gonna allow you to have more juice. So you just press it against the countertop and you just roll it back and forth, so you can break apart all the lemon meat. Also, when you're looking for a lemon and you want it for juicing, you can look for lemon that has thin skin, and it should be very soft and soft to the touch. It should definitely give. If you want a lemon for zesting, then you want to make sure that you have a lemon that is it doesn't have to be hard. It should definitely give if you press it, but you don't want it to be so soft, because that would mean that the juice is probably going to be right underneath the surface. And if you zest it and you're grating the outside of it, you want to make sure that you get enough of that, of the rind of the lemon. So anyway, got our lemon, and we're going to squeeze half of it into our shrimp sauce. So here's our shrimp sauce, looking good. And a trick too to make sure that you catch the seeds is to just basically hold it over your hands and let the juice fall out of your fingers. Some people prefer to use a juicer, you can do that, but I think that using my hands is just fine. So just squeeze that in there, squeeze that in there. And like with anything, I've definitely said this more than once, you can always tweak a recipe. If you want more lemon juice, add it. If you want less lemon juice, okay, just squeeze a little bit of lemon juice in there. It's surprising how tart a lemon is and how much flavor you can get from it if you just squeeze half of it or just a little bit. So I'm gonna mix that up. Let's give you our lemon juice for this. You can smell the lemon, it smells amazing. Alright, so that's our lemon, and like I said, we're gonna have a little bit of cilantro in there, just a little bit for garnish and to add the last of our flavor. I'm gonna call this our finishing touch. Definitely do want to make sure you're careful with these knives though. I've had instances where I've had a cut just trying to dry the knife. I mean, it's insane. But like I said before, practice makes perfect. So I love my knives. So that is our cilantro. Just gonna go ahead and put that in there. And it's so nice whenever you add parsley or cilantro at the end of a dish. Sometimes I think it's a little bit of a hassle to have to chop the extra parsley or the extra cilantro, especially when you buy a whole entire bunch and you're only using like 2 or 3 leaves. But it's kind of pleasant when you sprinkle it into the dish and then add that nice just pop of color. So hey, if you like it, do it. And again, if you don't want to, you don't have to, but I like the pop of color it gives, and I'm sure it's gonna give a nice little taste to it. So I like to do that. And it's amazing too how much cooking is such a visual and also just very sensory experience. I mean, you're tasting the food, you're smelling the food, you're not observing, but you're looking at the food and you're just taking it all in. It's just really pretty amazing. So thank you so much for tuning into our vlog, and that is shrimp and grits. Oh, also, all you have to do to serve it is basically spoon some of the grits into a bowl, and then you want to ladle some of the shrimp sauce onto the grits. Make sure you get some of that juice too, because it's really, really, really good. You can eat it with corn muffins or maybe fried tomatoes and a salad if you like, and I promise it's going to be delicious. There you have it. Lemon, garlic, shrimp and grits with a cucumber, green pepper salad, and a sweet corn muffin. Bon appetit! You know how all chefs do, I've got to taste the lemon, garlic, shrimp and grits. Let's see. It's very, very good. Savory, a little bit spicy from the red pepper flakes, and delicious. I can't wait to eat the rest of this.